By and large, these factors contributed to the Dune miniseries being overlooked by many and being forgotten. Overall, while the 2000 miniseries adaptation of Dune has its strengths, the limitations of the production and distribution may have contributed to its lack of commercial success. Exploring the criminally underrated miniseries Children of Dune. Children of Dune is another sci-fi miniseries that premiered in the US on March 16, 2003. It's a follow-up to the 2000 miniseries Frank Herbert's Dune. It's based on Frank Herbert's novels Dune Messiah and Children of Dune. The show was written by John Harrison and directed by Greg Yaitanes. Just like its predecessor, it was produced by the Sci-Fi Channel. Notably, both Children of Dune and Dune are among the 3 highest-rated programs to ever be broadcast on the network. Furthermore, the show features a star-studded cast, including Susan Sarandon, James McAvoy, and Alec Newman, among others. The production was a massive undertaking, with a budget of over $20 million and filming taking place in several countries, including the Czech Republic and Tunisia. The show won a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Special Visual Effects in 2003, and it was also nominated for 3 other Emmys. However, despite its critical acclaim, it failed to garner much traction. The story shown in this miniseries chronicles the reign of Emperor Paul Atreides, his struggles with conspiracies and assassination attempts, the birth and protection of his preborn twins Leto II and Ganima, and ultimately, his sacrifice and departure from the throne. The series also delves into the machinations and schemes of rival factions seeking to sit on the throne of Arrakis, including the Tleilaxu, the Bene Gesserit, and House Corrino. Let's jump straight into the details of the plot. Part 1. Messiah. The first part picks up 12 years after Paul Atreides won the war and became emperor at the conclusion of Frank Herbert's Dune by forcing a union with Princess Irulan, the erstwhile Emperor Shaddam IV's daughter. It is further shown that since then, Paul's Fremen troops have waged a number of deadly jihads to strengthen their position. If you're wondering about what happened to the deposed Emperor Shaddam IV and the rest of his family, well, they were exiled to Seleucia Secundus, a waste planet that doubles as a prison. It is here that his other daughter, Princess Wensia, began scheming to bring the House of Corrino back to power and regain their lost glory. Further, other betrayals begin brewing in the background with rebel Fremen who objected to how Paul's terraforming effort was altering Arrakis and the traditional Fremen way of life, the Bene Gesserit, the Spacing Guild, and the Tleilaxu coming together to conspire and topple Paul's regime. To make matters worse, the Tleilaxu also create a clone of Paul's deceased friend, Duncan Idaho, and secretly program the clone to assassinate Paul when given specific verbal triggers. Despite his ability to see into the future and predict the coming danger, Paul chooses to let the conspiracies against him concede in order to prevent even worse consequences. And, as a result, he's attacked with a devastating weapon comparable to nuclear weapons called a stone burner, which blinds him completely. However, Paul manages to see by relying on his prescient vision that he is infamous for having. Many important events take place, such as Paul's concubine Chani giving birth to a set of twins but dying shortly afterwards, and Paul's younger sister Alia purging the imperial city of their enemies. Later, interestingly, although Paul ends up triggering Duncan's programming, which was meant to kill him, it ultimately fails, and Duncan regains his original memories since he experiences intense dissonance over the prospect of killing a man who was his friend. The Tleilaxu then offer to bring Chani back to life in exchange for Paul's agreement to their terms. However, despite being tempted, Paul ultimately sees through the eyes of his son and kills the Tleilaxu representative, Scytale. After this, following the Fremen tradition of abandoning the blind to sandworms, Paul then walks into the desert all alone, at the mercy of the gigantic sandworms he once proudly rode, leaving his legacy and the future empire to be guided by his twin children and Alia. The first part is intense and effectively works to remove Paul from being the focus of the story. With him walking into the desert and accepting his fate, his children and younger sister are pushed into the limelight for the next 2 installments. Part 2. The Children. The second installment obviously pushes the twin children, Leto and Ganima, to the forefront of the story, and they are young adults by the time the plot takes place. We learn that their interests have been upheld post their parents' death by Princess Irulan, despite the fact that Chani was their mother and not her. Alia, who is now Duncan's wife, continues to serve as the children's legal guardian and regent of Paul's empire. She is also at the center of this entire story. Inevitably, when there is a throne, there are always conspiracies. Remember deposed Emperor Shaddam's other daughter Wencesia? Well, Wencesia, the sister of Irulan, longs for her son Farad'n to assume leadership once more, and thus is shown scheming against Paul's children. To add to Alea's worries, she begins suspecting that Lady Jessica, her mother, might be plotting against her now that she has re-established her devotion to the Bene Gesserit after a protracted sabbatical. Further, complications arise during her reign when a man who goes by the moniker The Preacher appears in the capital and speaks out against Muad'Dib's religion's deterioration into meaningless rites. However, Alea refuses to have him executed since she agrees with the general consensus that he might be a returned or rebirthed Paul. In this installment, we see Alea struggle immensely. Being preborn has given Alea access to her ancestors' memories and personalities, but she struggles to manage them. Her internal battles with these strong voices surface as paranoia and destructive behavior. Alea starts to be affected by the wicked Baron Harkonnen persona, which threatens to completely take over her awareness. Thus, Irulan is advised by Jessica to whisk Leto and Ganima away to safety after sensing that Alea has turned dangerous. Later, after becoming the target of an assassination attempt, Jessica herself takes refuge with dissident Fremen. The second part ends with the twins fleeing into the vast desert while dressed in clothes given to them by Wencesia, but they soon find themselves in one of her terrible traps. This one ends on a major cliffhanger, and the audience is left to wonder what will happen to Paul's children. Part 3. The Golden Path. The third and final part of the Children of Dune miniseries begins with a meeting between Leto II and Farad'n, Wencesia's son, who is being groomed for a political marriage with Ganima. It turns out that the twins were able to survive Wencesia's trap, and Leto offers Farad'n a chance to become his heir and rule the universe together, but Farad'n refuses. Meanwhile, Alea becomes increasingly unstable and paranoid, haunted by visions of her father and the people she has killed. She even attempts to take control of the spice melange from the Spacing Guild, but her plan is foiled by the Preacher, who turns out to be none other than Paul Atreides himself, who somehow returned from the desert. We further learn that Leto and Ganima have been secretly plotting to destroy their Aunt Alea, who they believe is corrupt and dangerous. Using their ability to communicate telepathically, they hatch a plan to expose her crimes in front of the entire court. However, Alea discovers their plan and tries to kill Ganima, leading to a dramatic showdown between the siblings. Leto II then encounters the Preacher, and upon realizing that the man is his father, the two have a conversation about the future of humanity. It is here that Leto reveals his plans to become a sandworm and lead humanity on a path towards survival. The Preacher warns Leto that he will be sacrificing his humanity for the sake of humanity's survival. This encounter with the Preacher further solidifies Leto's resolve to become the Sandworm and take on the role of the Kwisatz Haderach, setting the stage for the dramatic conclusion of the miniseries. Leto then begins to undergo a transformation, slowly turning into a sandworm-human hybrid as he consumes ever-increasing amounts of spice. Leto becomes increasingly ruthless and amoral as he embraces his new form, even going so far as to kill his own mother to prevent her from taking control of his empire. In the final scene, Leto emerges as a fully transformed sandworm-human hybrid, ready to take on his role as the ruler of the universe. His twin, Ganima, who did not undergo the same transformation, is left behind to mourn the loss of her brother and the person he once was. The series ends with a voiceover from Leto as he explains his vision for the future of humanity and his role in ensuring its survival. The ending is striking and beautifully draws this chapter of Dune to an end. Marvelous Verdict, a remarkable Dune adaptation with a dense story arc. Despite having a loyal fanbase and rich source material to draw from, the miniseries unfortunately failed to perform well when it was released, just like its predecessor. One of the main reasons for this was the lack of promotion by the network. Viewers were not made aware of the new miniseries, and as a result, it failed to attract a significant enough audience. Another factor that contributed to the poor performance was the super complex plot. The series includes many subplots and characters, which can be difficult to follow, especially for viewers who have not read the novels. While the miniseries did do its best to simplify the plot, it was still too complicated for many viewers to follow. In addition to the complex plot, the production values of Children of Dune were criticized. Some viewers felt that the costumes and special effects were not up to par or even equal to its predecessor, which detracted from the overall experience. Additionally, the pacing of the series was slow, with some scenes feeling too long. This slow pace made it difficult for viewers to become invested in the story and characters. Finally, this miniseries aired during a time when there was a glut of science fiction programming on television. As a result, the series had to compete with other popular shows, such as Battlestar Galactica and Stargate SG-1. This made it difficult for Children of Dune to stand out and attract a significant audience. Ultimately, these factors combined to make it a disappointing experience for many viewers despite its strong source material. In conclusion, Frank Herbert's Dune miniseries and its sequel, Children of Dune, are genuinely remarkable adaptations of iconic science fiction novels. The rich and complex narrative, the intricate world building, and the compelling characters make for an absolutely captivating viewing experience, even if they might be a tad bit slow. Despite some criticisms of the miniseries' pacing and special effects, the attention to detail and faithfulness to the source material simply can't be denied. Whether you're a longtime fan or a newcomer to the Dune universe, these miniseries are a must-watch for any science fiction enthusiast. Do you think these are better than the Dune movies? Tell us in the comments section below. That's all for this one, but thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.
As the game slowly escalates. At E3 2010, at Microsoft's press conference, then Senior Vice President of Interactive Entertainment, Don Matrick, introduced a special guest onto stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my friend and the creator of Metal Gear Solid, Hideo Kojima.
The legendary director, just 2 years after making Metal Gear Solid 4, a game that could apparently only run on a PS3...
Oh, wait! We're on PlayStation 3!
...was here to announce a new entry to the Metal Gear series for Xbox 360, and also PS3, but that little nugget was shared later. Metal Gear Solid Rising, starring a cyborg Raiden and set between MGS2 and 4. It showcased a very different style of game, lightning bolt action. Rather than the tactical espionage action the series had always labelled itself as. Its primary gimmick was that Raiden could cut anything in the game in half. Structures, enemies, cars, watermelons. But one of the most important details about the game is that Kojima himself wouldn't be directing it, and it would instead be handled by other members at Kojima Productions. Not the first time he'd passed off the reins of the franchise to other people, and some of those results weren't atrociously terrible. So it was a wonder how the game would do away from the father of the whole franchise. Metal Gear Solid Rising was cancelled the very same year it was announced. The team was struggling with the main concept of the game, being able to cut everything, and how it integrated with the level design and the balance between stealth and action. It didn't help that different members had very different ideas about the ways to approach the game. There was no strong director to guide the project. Kojima himself couldn't step in and be the unquestionable voice of God because he had just finished working on Peace Walker and was now working on the Fox engine and laying the groundwork for Metal Gear Solid 5. Eventually, progress just wasn't getting made, and the game was cancelled. However, only quietly, behind closed doors, something could still be done to salvage this game. Kojima met with then Platinum Games Vice President Atsushi Inaba, now CEO. Inaba asked Kojima how Metal Gear Solid Rising was doing. Kojima apparently later replied by asking him if Platinum wanted to make it. Platinum Games agreed, but insisted that they could do their own thing rather than work on any concepts that Kojima Productions had already made. The setting was moved to after MGS4, as not to disturb the delicate and overburdened Metal Gear timeline, and at the Spike Video Game Awards 2011, the game was officially re-revealed to the public, sporting a slightly different look.
Let's have some fun.
Okay, well, that was slightly different. Oh god, it's still going! Okay, it's done. And wouldn't you know it, the game came out just over a year later. Now, Metal Gear Rising. No Solid, since the game was so radically different to the established MGS series. It's also very unlike Metal Gear Solid Rising. I still see some people lamenting that we never got to get that version of the game, but as we discussed previously, that game didn't ever really exist. Certainly not as a finished and refined idea. Unlike Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance. Revengeance. Revenge with a vengeance. It's been 10 years and I don't think this subtitle has been topped in games since. Metal Gear Rising Revengeance is 10 years old now, and it's absolutely remarkable that the game still occupies a place within the collective consciousness, even if it is mostly the memes. There is actually a second anniversary here, a personal one, but it's now 1 year since I started doing these reviews regularly, where I looked at Babylon's Fall and was horribly disappointed. The game is actually shutting down, as of publishing, tomorrow. So I wanted to look at a different title, where Platinum Games were at their best. A game that I love unquestionably. There are games made by Platinum that you could say have better combat or better stories, and certainly ones that have better PC ports. But this game still remains a unique gem of a title that hits several notes that you simply can't find elsewhere in gaming. There are multiple reasons for this, and while we're going to be hitting all of them, the key reason and crux of this video is one of the most important. Metal Gear Rising Revengeance is the hypest game to have ever graced this planet. No, it's not the most highbrow title a game can attain, but the legacy of its claim is undeniable. We're going to be going through the whole game in this review, beat by beat, as the little things, the minutiae of how it executes all its tricks, are what makes this game. It'll be kind of like a movie night with a commentary, but with how verbose this series is, I couldn't imagine it being any other way. We'll be considering the game from the perspective of a first-time player, while we also deconstruct the strengths, the weaknesses, and Rising's untouchable, glorious legacy. I'm playing the PC version of the game, and it's worth mentioning the PC port, while not unplayable, is rough in many places. It only goes as high as 1080p without a mod, and going higher may break certain certain parts of the menu. When you first boot the game, there's a chance it will be locked to 24 frames per second, which requires a different mod to fix. There's a prominent bug where your radar will disappear and several game elements will then scale incorrectly, and the only fix is to restart your game. And the mouse cursor centers on every menu screen if you're on the controller, so enjoy seeing him from time to time. I'll link to the game's PC Gaming wiki page in the description below, which has all the fixes you're going to need to play the game. It's worth mentioning, I consider the game worth going through all of this trouble for. Come on, let's hit new game. Hard mode, of course. We begin with a tutorial with absolutely no build-up. That was probably crowbarred in because this game has a bit of an onboarding problem. This tutorial is probably one of the hardest things in this game. You can't fail it, per se, but you can pass it unsuccessfully. The ninja run system is easy. Move fast and automatically traverse obstacles while holding R2. It's like a less refined but faster system than Assassin's Creed's free run, and you can perform attacks while doing it. Light and heavy attacks for taking out enemies? Simple, cool. Blocking is slightly trickier. You need to press light attack and move the stick in the direction of the incoming attack at the same time. And to perform the game's parry mechanic, you need to perform a block at the last possible second of the attack. This is is a crucial move that you need in order to survive this game, and for some reason, the tutorial doesn't track if you actually performed a block or a parry. So instead, you might end up just doing this. And then the game just starts and you still have no real idea how to block or parry. You'll be fine at the beginning, but there is a ticking timer above your head for when that lack of knowledge can hurt you. I know a few people who've fallen off the game because they couldn't get to grips with the system before they began to get overwhelmed. You can Can do these tutorials at any time in the VR mission menu, so there's that for you at least. The game begins properly in an unnamed country in Africa, with Raiden, real name Jack, performing security duty as part of private military corporation Maverick for the land's beneficent leader, President Namani. Fun fact, Namani is played by Dorian Harewood, who played the character 8-Ball in Full Metal Jacket.
They'd rather be alive than free, I guess. Poor dumb bastards.
He's much more anti-war here.
Perhaps I was wrong about these private military companies.
We prefer private security providers, sir. Most of Maverick's contracts do focus on security.
Yes, well, security can mean many things.
There's a saying I like. One sword keeps another in the sheath. Sometimes the threat of violence alone is a deterrent. Sometimes by taking a life, others can be preserved. It's the code the samurai lived by.
A soldier and a philosopher. You are full of surprises, Mr. Lightning Bolt.
Not really the deepest philosophy, but this game isn't going to be a deep political thriller, as evidenced by our convoy getting stopped by a mysterious stranger.
I said clear the road! We're authorized to use force if you do!
That shit-eating grin. We try to escape with Namani, but the enemy is utilizing convenient combat arena barricades to block our escape. So it's up to Raiden to take these guys out. I love this. Stepping so hard you crack the ground, removing your entire suit with one hand, the needlessly expensive electromagnetic carrying case for your sword, slowly and dramatically unsheathing the blade like an anime character, and then just destroying a wall effortlessly with your blade in like a few swipes. There's nothing like it to get you psyched up for your first combat encounter.
Let's get this over with.
This opening section is a pretty chill warm-up to get you acclimatized to the combat. Multiple grunts pour in just asking to be torn apart by your blade, giving you a good amount of time to feel out what combos you can pull off in the game at this stage. You can also start playing around with blade mode. The idea of cutting apart your enemies or objects in the environment is still very much alive in Platinum's game. Slashing with precision or just wildly hacking around you like a madman with glorious folded high-frequency steel is an absolute joy. No other game has even attempted to have a system like it. We move into the next area, and there's another cutscene. This is a Metal Gear game after all. Plenty of cutscenes to go around. Speaking of Metal Gear, though... You're at the start of this game, and the Metal Gear you struggled against at the end of the game where you last played as Raiden, if you played that, that is here looking for a rematch. Oh, and also there's this guy stealing the president. His name's Sundowner, and he's the most over-the-top evil man ever. Every word he says is pure evil, and it's just the best. He's even got that hateable grin too.
Stop!
So you're Jack.
What do you want with the Prime Minister?
I want him dead. Nothing personal, of course. Africa's just getting a bit too peaceful.
What?
A clean break from the war economy. Huh. Well, some of us like that economy. How's an honest warmonger supposed to make a living?
This is your answer?
Raiden, shut up. I'm loving this cheese.
So long.
But there's no time to waste because now we've got to fight Ray. A goddamn giant Metal Gear is your first boss fight. One of the first proper fights in the whole game. And he's probably a better tutorial than the actual tutorial. He's not easy necessarily, but there's so many things you can do in the fight that teach you the skills you need later. You're going to be chasing him with your ninja run, since the arena is so huge, so you're going to get to grips with how that works and how it lets you deflect incoming bullets automatically. Ray launches these missiles to the ground that you can slice up while moving, preventing them from exploding, and rewarding the player with some extra health with consumables. Most crucially, the game teaches you the importance of blocking. You don't need to get a perfect parry, it's the first boss, but blocking attacks has the game grant you blade mode sections almost as a reward, letting you do massive damage as you destroy his armor, turrets, and even his tail. The fight's pretty good, but if you know the fight, you know why we're here. You know I left something out of that trailer from earlier. It's how the fight ends.
Very good. But do not rest easy just yet, huh?
Legendary. By far, one of this game's best features is the fact that the boss battle themes are synced to the fight. So certain sections of the song will play depending on what you're doing, and it's most prominently used to drop the lyrics of the song right at the fight's climax. And it does this for every major boss fight, with a unique song for each individual boss. I haven't seen music incorporated this well into an action game since. At least, not until Hi-Fi Rush came out. Play Hi-Fi Rush, too. Right, with Ray taken care of, we can go back to chasing Sundowner to rescue the president. This section through the canal, I think, was meant to be the original tutorial for the parkouring skills of the ninja run, you know, before they put it in that VR tutorial. Is that Metal Gear Ray again?
That there you cheat. It still works?
Second fight, new tricks. Make sure you're still blocking, and use blade mode to cut up the missiles pouring in. Is Ray just covered head to toe in guns and missiles now? Bash the bastard on the head enough, and then...
Finish that bastard off!
Oh boy, he's not dead, is he? Jesus Christ, look at this! Just look at all this! This is the first level in the game! Okay, he's dead now. You're goddamn right that's an S rank. Even dropping the lyrics like a bomb the second time is absolutely incredible. This is the most insane opening act in any game. It's an absolute power trip and sells to you the feeling of being a cyborg ninja, something the Metal Gear series has been showing as the coolest thing in the world since 1998. Now you have that power. All to yourself, and it feels good. You feel unstoppable. And yet, it builds you up so much so that it can drop you back down. After catching up with Sundowner and leaping onto a moving train, you go to save the president from his captors.
Mind if I got in? Oh, you're saying, give war a chance!
Oh, we failed?
No!
This guy kills President Namani right in front of us? And now we have to fight the smiling samurai Sam over here. And while you're still riding that adrenaline rush of destroying a Metal Gear with naught but might and a very sharp sword,
He's all yours, Sam!
this smug little prick here
Let's go.
destroys you. When you are built up to the highest feelings of pride and power, this man doesn't just knock you off your perch, he destroys you.
Self-taught, and not half bad. Still. Your technique lacks something.
He blocks all of your attacks with ease, before whittling you down to deliver the final whooping.
Now I see. You deny your weapon its purpose. It yearns to bathe in the blood of your enemies, but you hold it back. No.
My sword is a tool of justice.
And then using his gun sword sheath, a gun sword sheath, to rocket out his blade, cutting off Raiden's arm too. Man, this game's cool, even when it's kicking my ass.
Shit, not again.
I get it. The game goes even further and begins this mocking, humiliating sequence where the all-powerful cyborg now can't make a single attack. It's only by luck that we're spared death from Sam as we leave the tunnel, thanks to the helpful arrival by our backup here.
Get you waiting, huh?
I get it. Sam manages to escape, but we're left here to writhe in a pool of our own failure, shame, and blood. Congratulations on beating the prologue! It's important to note here just what a wild ride this first level was. After making you out to be what feels like the strongest, most dangerous creature on the face of the earth, the game stomps you back down and tells you that there are people even stronger than you, bringing your power fantasy back down to the ground. But this is your motivation through this game, to get back at those who turned your glory into shame, to get your revenge with a vengeance, your revengeance. However, those heights you reached are the high watermark for much of the experience. There is nothing in the game that will bring you to the levels of euphoria seen in the first boss battle with Rey. And you're going to keep chasing the memory of that joy as the game slowly escalates from here. Though, when I say it never reaches that level, I'm obviously leaving out Senate. We pick up just 3 weeks later. We're entering Abkhazia, a republic on the coast of Georgia. The country's undergone a violent coup, and Desperado, the group behind the mess back in Africa, is helping the terrorists. So, we're here to help the country and maybe learn a thing or two about whatever the hell Desperado is up to. We're properly introduced to our support team here: Boris, our boss; Kevin, our support; Courtney, who saves our data; and Doctor, a cybernetics expert. Then we're fired out of a drone like a cannonball, straight onto a beach, where we get a sweet look at Raiden's new cyborg body. It's jagged, rough-looking, kinda edgy, but it's a great design. Whereas the old Metal Gear Solid Rising was using it to be a sort of early model for Raiden when it was set before MGS4, now we have the excuse that the body was quickly thrown together to get Raiden back into the field as quickly as possible. This suit has a few tricks up its sleeves, which you can try out on this beach here. There's a new HUD to replace the old one in the last mission, which was a nod to the MGS4 HUD, by the way. Very nice. Blade mode has received a boost, and there's no end of toys to play around with on here. I just love that the interior of objects are textured like you imagine, and barrels are actually hollow inside. It's those little details that really sell the system. However, no amount of enhancements will prepare you for this cat. You can also now use the codec to call your support staff, and there's a ton of conversations you can have throughout the whole game. A welcome return after Peace Walker and MGS4 had much more limited codec calls. Some of these conversations flesh out the story or details in the world, others are just funny.
It's called Mistral.
Cyborg?
Yep. All three have got custom-made bodies. Collectively, they're known as the Winds of Destruction.
The what? They all have action figures too?
You're one to talk, Mr. Lightning Bolt.
Who told you?
However, I often forget about this feature because when the combat starts, I lose sight of everything else in the game.
The bastards are using stealth cable to ambush you. Nice try, but it won't do any good against a state-of-the-art cyborg like you, huh?
And speaking of the combat, we have the most crucial piece of the puzzle now: Zandatsu. Zandatsu, in English, means cut and take. Damage an enemy enough and you can use blade mode to target their fuel cells and snatch them out of their body, which recovers all of your health and energy. All of it. This might seem powerful, but getting hit in this game can absolutely chunk you. These little grunts you can actually take out with the blade mode instantly if you have energy. But bigger threats? They're going to need some special care to take them down. Fortunately, Raiden is experienced in this field. You can perform parries or other actions to stun enemies, which will enable special takedowns. They can be tricky to pull off, but once you identify the signs, you can clean up fights lightning bolt fast. You can also damage larger enemies normally, and parts of them will become vulnerable to blade mode. An insane feature of this game is how foes can still function even after taking off their limbs, and they react differently depending on what limbs are gone. An arm, one leg, or both legs? This even applies to the geckos. Those are called geckos, by the way. You can actually get a no-kill bonus if you let enemies run away after literally disarming them. No kill, but I wouldn't exactly call it non-lethal. But be careful, because a lot of enemies can still attack you, even with missing limbs. All of this means that utilizing Zandatsu is essential to success. You need to be constantly replenishing yourself in order to survive in this game. Plus, it looks good on your combat rankings, which will give you more points to purchase new abilities and upgrade yourself. You can also accurately cut off enemy limbs to get extra points, but it's very easy to forget that in the heat of the moment. It's probably worth mentioning the game's issues with teaching the player about its mechanics again, as you can buy these moves in the store, but it doesn't actually tell you how to do them. In order to do that, you have to access the moves list in the menu and remember which ones you bought. It's an inelegant solution when other games just told the player when they bought it. Ah, never mind any of that for now, though. Want to see this game's idea of a stealth kill? And yes, it is somehow considered a quiet takedown, more or less. But why would you want to use stealth in the fun action game? Well, along the way you can find civilians being held hostage by Desperado, and if you get seen before you've taken out the guards around them, the hostage will be executed. You don't have to save them, but you get a points bonus if you do. So I tried saving them all on this playthrough. Sometimes it's just a simple matter of sneaking around to get the right angle and taking out the soldiers. Other times you'll have to use equipment in order to make the risky rescue right. You can find said items by exploring the level, as well as stat upgrades, optional VR missions, which are a great way to earn currency, and sometimes even stranger things.
Nice hiding spot. Wonder where you learned that from.
I should also stress, before we go any further into this big long video, just how well this game controls. Everything feels fantastic to pull off, and the way Raiden moves is so slick, so precise. There is a frantic and ferocious pace to combat, where the objective is to be efficient, yet violent. The Zandatsu is integrated well into the game, feeling like a natural ebb and flow in a fight. You're invincible when you do this, so it's a chance for the player to breathe, just as Raiden recovers his own stamina. There's really nothing out there that does exactly like what Rising does with its combat, and none of what I've mentioned would work or hit nearly as hard as it does if the game wasn't this fun. So thank God, it's very fun. And with that, I think I've basically explained everything there is to just playing the game. So, it's time for your first exam. That's right, it's time for another boss fight. Meet Blade Wolf, a mad robo-puppy ready to take you down with an attached chainsaw and an enhanced artificial intelligence. Bet he still can't draw hands.
I possess an intellect far beyond human reckoning.
You don't say. Okay then, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here?
I am here to kill you.
That's it? Pretty simple thinking for such a mighty intellect.
Forgive me a small digression, but I love this. This small talk banter before a boss fight. Platinum knows how to do it well, and it's a staple for the hack and slash genre as a whole. A little back and forth to psych up the player for the fight. There is an artistry to it. And it's worth mentioning because this game originally released just 1 month after another game that didn't quite hit the same notes.
But you can call me Dante the Demon Killer. Has a nice ring to it, don't you think?
Fuck you!
Fuck you!
Fuck you!
Look, say what you want about DMC Devil May Cry. That's it, just say whatever you want about it, I don't care. But enough talk! Have at you!
Exterminate!
When I called Blade Wolf an exam, I wasn't joking. This is where if you don't have a handle on at least blocking, you're going to hit a wall here. This is where my friends who didn't figure it out in the tutorial stopped playing. Wolf can be fast and hit hard if you're not careful, unlike the soldiers you've been able to shrug off before this. You need to be actively tracking him and hitting that block, which, if you recall, involves moving the stick into the attack. It's a fairly unique control style, but there's something about the motion of it that elevates it above a simple block button. It's like catching a sword with your hands or plucking an arrow out of the air. When you're in the zone and pulling it off, it all feels wonderfully transcendent. This fight feels like a homecoming for you, the player, to show you're crawling out of the hole that you were cast into, laying your mark down into the earth and declaring that you will not die and be a meal for the dogs. You are in fact alive. It might take the first-time player a few times to beat Wolf. And sure, it's on the game for not helping you get up to where you need to be, but once you get it all down, you're absolutely golden. And your reward for beating all the bosses in this game is the opportunity to hack them into pieces.
Cannot continue. Directive, liberate nation. Ensure freedom. Obey directive. Must obey directive. No freedom. Freedom on device.
What would an AI know about freedom?
Beautiful. I must confess, when I first played the full game, I did have a slight advantage at launch, because I'd already played the demo and gotten to grips with the combat. The demo actually ended here at this boss, so I was ready for him personally. And I'd even played multiple versions of the demo, before the one on the PlayStation Store, and the demo that came with Zone of the Enders HD collection. I played it at a convention, where they set up a booth where you'd win a t-shirt if you beat the demo in a certain time. And I did it! Look at this shirt I sort of don't fit into anymore. Or maybe I never did. They only had mediums in stock. Yes, this whole paragraph was an excuse to show off my gamer swag. Okay, with Wolf defeated, I'm gonna say now that if you haven't played Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, if it looks appealing to you and you are able to get it, whether on PC, Xbox backwards compatibility, or maybe you have an old PS3 and a copy lying around somewhere, absolutely play this game. I'm going to put up a spoiler warning right here because we've covered the basic foundations of the game, but the reason why this game is the hypest game ever comes from the game's pace and presentation and the wild ride the whole story takes you on. From this point on, we're going to be picking up the pace and covering things much more quickly so that we can see it all. If you want to experience the game for yourself though, now's the time to get off the ride, but for everyone else, this is just the tip of the blade. Berg. Jesus, that's terrible. Anyway, time to cool off with a relaxing walk across this bridge. Sub-weapons are a good way of gaining a tactical advantage on trickier enemies, such as flying units, or big boys you just want to down quickly. Some enemies might come in on gliders now, but they're no problem. Don't overthink things with air combos, they're a bit limited, just blade mode them out of the sky. You'll also start meeting medium level grunts now. They're beefier, so you can't take them down instantly with blade mode anymore, and you can often find yourself getting into parry duels with them. Really fun though. Eventually we move into the old part of the city and find Abkhaz's cretinous criminals, Dolzaev, the head of the coup, and Mistral from Desperado.
Raiden, what's happening? Your heart rate spiked.
Yeah, I just dodged a bullet.
Okay. I suppose he has to keep his vows to Rosemary. As you move through the city, taking on some optional fights and collecting enemy hands for your cybernetics-obsessed doctor,
Ich liebe Kapitalismus.
You'll eventually make it to the industrial zone, and oh god, it's dwarf geckos. Fresh from MGS4. These little creatures will latch onto you, and you have to shake them off before they explode. And while they do this, you're stunned, and they're draining your energy supplies you need for blade mode. On their own, they're a pain. With other enemies, they can be a nightmare, especially on Revengeance difficulty. Breaking into the compound is some tricky business, as there are gun cameras dotted around, but also IR lasers that will alert the whole area. These lasers only become visible after turning on your augmented vision mode and seeing them, and a neat little quirk is that you can't use this mode alongside Ninja Run. Can't just leave it on like an Arkham game, so you have to take things a bit more carefully rather than sprinting through slashing. I mean, if you want to, anyway. Mistral, our first stop on our road trip of Revengeance. Mistral is notable for being one of the only bosses in this game that has absolutely no memes about her. I've seen Blade Wolf memes, but nothing really from her. Maybe because her cutscenes and dialogue are kinda just what you expect. She was a child when war came to her home, but then she killed the people who killed her family. That's sort of the baseline for every character in Metal Gear. That said, she does take the arms off the dwarf geckos to make a weapon, which is very cool. And also does this. Well, I'm uncomfortable. Eat your heart out, Godric. We've been grafting since 2013. Her whole design is really cool. This shot of the knife being passed around her new arms is just great. The Cold Wind of France attacks with the bendable gecko arms as both a spear and letting them flex around like a whip, because this is a female character in a video game. The geckos around you complicate things from being beyond a simple one-on-one, however, but you can also destroy them to get little boosts to your health, which might be needed since there's no opportunities for Zandatsu here. Even Wolf made sure to bring me a few snacks. Good thing this is such a low-key scuffle. I suppose what is maybe the main gimmick, or perhaps lesson to learn from her fight, is hitting precise targets in blade mode in a very short timer. This will get you some damage on her, but you can even break her weapon, which will open her up to attack and give you some breathing room, as some of her attacks can just run you over. You'll make it in the end, though.
Mistro, report! Your vitals are dropping.
I lost. So this is how they felt.
Yeah, let's speed things up. She's done. Now to take care of Dolzaev, and maybe we can be home in time for dinner.
It's over, Dolzaev. Surrender.
Why would I surrender? We are exactly where I want.
Shit.
Built with Russian money to make Russian money. It is no plan for Abkhaz. It is their prison.
But now, they will be free!
Damn! Crazy son of a bitch!
Raiden, what happened?
Bastard blew himself up.
Well, don't feel too bad, Raiden. You were already wrecking the place pretty badly.
We're sending a helicopter. Secure an LZ.
Understood.
Still, we failed again? This isn't like Dante laughing his way through the entirety of Devil May Cry 3. There's nothing wacky woohoo pizza man about this. Oh man, I sure hope things get better for us soon. There's really no way to beat around the bush with this. Mexico is a weird chapter. Raiden is going undercover.
Relax, Kev. I'll blend right in.
Yeah. Well,
That's not the funniest thing in this car, though. Fido is.
you sure you want the K9000 there along for this one?
I had the good doctor make some adjustments along with the repairs. Remote piloting and AI wiping have been disabled. So yeah, I say let's throw him a bone.
Wordplay. My exoskeleton resembles a canine. Canines enjoy bones. Amusing on 2 levels.
Yeah, the Robo-Dog's on our side now, with a new look to him. I didn't skip over a cutscene where you scoop him up and rebuild him. He just shows up and you're meant to take it for granted. You do get context if you call on the codec after beating him.
Doc, that wolf UG, you think it's possible to repair it?
Why do you ask?
Just curious.
You did remember to do this, right? Stopping and calling someone amidst all the... Anyway, Raiden's going into the sewers because there's a secret Desperado laboratory in the area, so we're going to go scope it out.
Adios, amigos.
¿Viste? Qué raro, ¿eh? Hay que hacer que no lo vimos. Vámonos ya.
The base is apparently dumping waste and even allegedly involved with the cartels and human trafficking. If we find some cooked tax books, we could probably charge Desperado for every crime on the planet by now.
I will scout ahead. You will provide backup.
Sir, yes, sir.
Commence operation.
Sadly, you never get to fight alongside Wolf. They're always a scout. They do have their own DLC, which is free on PC, if you want to play that later though. But for now, it's time for Raiden to enter a world of pain. Meet the Mastiff, an absolute hulking gorilla, easily the biggest pain in the arse in the whole enemy roster, and he was meant to be in the game in its original form. He can grab you, slam you, pound you, and he has health for days. Taking off his limbs can help you, but he can still attack you without any arms. The game only throws one at you at first to make you fear just a single fight with them, before throwing you into the next room with multiple ones below you. You'll want to take that stealth approach now. At least take one of them out with no fuss, so you don't become squashed into a flapjack. Oh, and you may notice I'm using Mistral's weapon here. You gain the ability to purchase weapons of the bosses you kill to use as your heavy attack, but I've never been a huge fan of them, since I feel their combos don't gel as well as just using the sword, but that might just be me. I know some people really like the Sai in this game. Oi! Oh no, a child! I'll save you! He did that. More new enemies, creatively named Raptors. They're not too bad, though their electromagnetic attacks are a pain, since a sword cannot parry nature's force. They are surprisingly controlled by dwarf geckos, and if you stun one, you actually rip out the little guy and cut them both up at the same time. Pretty cool. Anyway, the kid's safe now.
¿Estás bien?
What you say?
Oh.
Me a Guyanese from Guyana. You speak English?
Yeah, I'm from America. Call me Raiden.
My name George, like Georgetown.
George.
George is a bit of a triggering name for Raiden, since that was the name of his father figure, who was the leader of a band of child soldiers and then became the US president. But we don't have time for that right now.
And just like old damn America president.
Yeah.
George tells us in his finest Guyanese Creole that there are other kids down here and they're being experimented on, taking their organs. Sounds pretty bad. The bigwigs apparently visited the lab recently, so there might be some useful intel for us here. So, rescue arranged for George, and off we go.
Heavy UG activity ahead. It is possible they are conducting test operations while the lab is closed.
They're not gonna make it easy to get into that lab. Is there some way you could sneak past? It's a box. How's that gonna help?
The sewers towards the lab are populated by more new enemies, these skiing strider things, which either I end up in a slap fight with and get thrown around for a while, or I kill them instantly with such skillful grace you might think I'm actually good at this game. Look, I beat this on Revengeance difficulty once, but that was 10 years ago, man. I don't know. Let's just get to the lab.
So, a fake wall projection. Pretty well hidden, I gotta say.
Okay, now what?
You need to take a dump.
Wait, what?
A dump? A digital optical output mounted proxy.
I'm glad this game carries the mature tone of previous Metal Gear games. Speaking of, I sneak through the next section by distracting the guards by throwing out a holographic projection of a pretty lady. I sure hope nothing shakes this happy wacky tone I'm riding. We found the kids. When I first played this, I was kinda shook when I entered that room. I didn't see the Hideo Kojima edited trailer that gave it away. Instead, just got it raw, delivered straight to my eyeballs. This is dark. Raiden has to assure himself that these brains haven't been in any of the cyborgs that he's been fighting so far. And he would know, because Raiden used to be a child soldier, by the way. He was the leader of an entire unit of them even, and received the nickname Jack the Ripper for his exploits. So, yeah, he knows a thing or two about it. Metal Gear has never shied from horrors, of war or the body. But this wasn't what I was expecting from the crazy cyborg ninja game 10 years ago. And in classic Metal Gear fashion, we get a funny scene right after, where we control a dwarf gecko for a bit, giving guards a friendly hug of electroshock therapy. Oh, thank God they never do that to me. Happy clappy, happy clappy. Okay, we're in.
Likely designed to download mission data and such into the UGs. Let's try using it to access the lab server.
That's still relatable. How have we not fixed this yet? And it's a hard turn back into Serious Town, where we use the data to see who's in charge of this operation. You could say some of this is serious tonal whiplash, and I wouldn't fault you for not liking it. But weirdly, I get the feeling this game knows it. Like, that's the intention? We see Sundowner again, alongside some mad scientist who's running the facility. They're apparently training the kids' brains in virtual reality with the Sears program, inspired by George Sears. You know, Raiden's dad figure I mentioned. Dude is gonna need some therapy after this. But also there's someone else here we don't know, who seems to be calling the shots. They're abandoning the facility and liquidating their stock. So, better get a move on? Alright, we can play. This isn't really a boss fight, so we're just gonna skim over this. Frankly, if you haven't got a new vocal music track for me, I'm not interested. He even becomes a regular enemy in the very next chapter, so... Anyway, Kev just found out that guy in the recording was someone called Stephen Armstrong, a US senator. I can't believe a politician would be corrupt and evil.
They're already talking about him as a shoo-in for the nomination in 2020.
Oh god, I forgot this game takes place in 2018. That was the future then. Could we warn them about the, everything that comes after this? But this complicates things. The world's biggest PMC has the backing of a major US politician. The amount of power being flexed here means we can't go public with this. The world media would be too afraid to touch it. At least according to Kev.
I didn't say it would be easy. We'll figure it out once the kids are safe.
We found the children. The children are being gassed in their cell. And now the mad scientist has captured George hostage.
Bring that glass, and I'll blow his brains out. Surrender. Or decide. The needs of the many, or the needs of the few.
I wasn't expecting a trolley problem in my fun ninja game.
Don't worry about me now.
Quiet, pendejo.
George, are you sure?
I'm ready. Me life now so precious. Ting. What if me can take this skunt to hell with me?
Cállate.
That's all I needed to hear.
Stop it! Now! I'll kill him, I swear!
Amazing. Mission complete. That right there is why you're the best, boss.
Turns out George is okay. He's got a cyborg body now. You shoved his body into a cryo freezer that the game pointed out before that cutscene. Both halves of him. No, really.
On a happier note, though, excellent work in bringing George's lower body back. Now he'll very likely be able to produce children in the future. Bravo!
The confusion you may have been feeling is absolutely the game's intention, because even Raiden has been feeling it, as well as a conflict about himself.
That's all I needed to hear.
It yearns to bathe in the blood of your enemies, but you hold it back.
Yeah, just remember that.
Aren't you meant to ask that before you shoot? Raiden's now quit Maverick so that he can go rogue and attack World Marshal, Desperado's parent company, directly in Denver, Colorado. Why not? We've done so much good in the world already. Let the US have some too. Boris isn't happy, but Maverick wouldn't be able to do anything themselves.
I won't sit by while they butcher little kids and ship their parts around like meat. It's sick.
It's not all so simple, Ryder. They import those brains legally.
That's a line and a half. Ah, my legally imported children's brains. All through the game, to this point, we've been skirting around the problem, trying to be sneaky as we uncover more and more facets to this conspiracy, which has left us uneasy, doing things we're not proud of. But the only thing I know for real is that stopping World Marshal and Desperado is priority number one. The police in Denver are actually all operated by World Marshal, a private security running the whole city, and they've been expecting us. Ah, a standard issue police RPG, of course. Didn't hurt though. Okay, there's no way the game's going to let me slice through an entire police force, even if the cops are owned by a private company and are clearly corrupt. There's just no way, right? Welcome to the hog roast! Officially, Maverick condemns your actions, but unofficially, you're still going to be receiving support from your team.
Спасибо, товарищ. Спасибо.
Even Wolf is helping out. Does he belong to me instead of the company? I did find him. Denver is a great level. A roller coaster of fun ideas to challenge you, the player. You start off on wide open streets before moving through buildings to cut across rooftops, hopping across the city skyline. These jerks are even taking hostages here in America. Man. Then we crash an elevator all the way down to the sublevels of this urban sprawl where it's pitch black, and the inability to use Ninja Run and Augment mode simultaneously slows the pace down, but keeps tensions high as the subway is crawling with Mastiff units. Eventually it's back up to ground level where the action kicks in once again among pedestrian thoroughfares. The whole city is just bursting with tricks.
That's my boy.
Really, Raiden? Ripping off people's clothes?
Raiden, think of your vowels. Along the way, there's 2 new enemies to fight, too, not even including regular versions of that boss from the last level. The Heavy Grunts, who have a giant hammer and can squash you flat, but take off one of their arms and they're basically done. Then there are the Fenrirs, who are the dumb, weak versions of Wolf. Absolutely no problems here. Can anything challenge me? Well, yes, actually.
Isn't this all a bit much? Any decent lunatic would have quit after Mexico.
Jetstream Sam.
He's not here to challenge you physically, but mentally. Or morally?
My sword is a means to an end, to protect those you'd prey on.
Really? Let me ask you. All those cyborgs you've killed up to now, maybe they weren't kids, but they were people. You ever think about them? When you're chopping them into hamburger?
They're adults. They made their choice.
Ah, the Metal Gear killing monologue. A staple classic.
You enjoy all the killing. That's what. Are you denying it?
This is the man who I seek my revengeance on, so it's fitting he gives it me. Sam is my rival, my liquid, my Virgil. Except Sam goes a step further here, directly addressing the economic circumstances that will lead to someone taking this job, to chopping up their body and replacing it with cybernetics, and being pumped full of emotion-stabilizing nanomachines and thrown into the fray. Raiden's justification that all of these people chose to do this is taking a beating, and as if to illustrate it further, Sam, somehow, lets Raiden tap into the suppressed inner voice inside these cops. And we all get to see it's not so cut and dry.
Can we take him? What's wrong?
The way he killed all the others? Oh, God.
This isn't fair. Little punk. Listen closely now. Die! This life. I watched my wife and son die. This is all I had left. You ain't shit!
Goddamn, I need just my legs. I needed a job. Stop!
What are you?
You fuck! What will happen to Zach and little Amy?
Raiden, are you injured?
I thought they had a choice. A fair choice. Not like you.
People are different.
As opposed to AIs? You're all the same, huh? You and your brothers. Manipulating mankind for our own good.
Yeah, don't let an AI try to comfort Raiden. That's another trigger for him.
Lolly lule low. Lolly lule low. Lolly lule low.
Raiden's so shook up about this, you have to sneak around the next section while moving at a fraction of your speed. Which isn't too hard, thankfully. But you wonder what all of this is building to. Raiden steps to the entrance of World Marshal, but can't bring himself to fight anymore. Not with all these voices in his head.
Not so black and white now, is it? Is your cause just? Or is that just what you tell yourself?
This all hasn't come out of nowhere too. Throughout the game, the justification for killing, even in times of war and conflict, has been a pretty major theme.
People who terrorize and take innocent lives for money. They sowed their fate when they took this job. I'm just the Reaper.
Damn. It's a bit cold, Raiden.
Even for you.
It's not subtle, but we're bringing it back around to hit you square in the face with it.
How pleased you are to chop away, Jack the Ripper.
And who better to talk to you about it than this clown?
My name is Monsoon, of the Winds of Destruction.
Another really cool design. How do you make a boss in a game about cutting off limbs? His limbs still work when cut up, of course. Monsoon is here to taunt you in part 2 of your vicious mockery, in a scene that's directly evoking the moment in MGS1 I mentioned. But this scene has become widely known not for its philosophizing, nor for the fact you can see a soldier pet a cat if you look to the side at the right time, but because Monsoon says this.
Controlled by something greater. Memes. The DNA of the soul.
Obviously, he's talking about the original meaning of meme as coined by Richard Dawkins in his 1976 book, The Selfish Gene. However, all of our minds are poisoned, so we just think about the funny images instead.
How about shit? Is that a meme?
And through all of this, Raiden finally comes to a conclusion about all his doubts and questions about morality. And I think I have to let the game explain itself on this, because this scene is fucking crazy.
I knew something was off. After the Patriots, I thought I could walk off the battlefield and into a normal life. I told myself this was about justice, about protecting the weak. But I was wrong. In America, my friends, my family, they helped me forget the devil inside. But who am I kidding? I was born to kill. The bit about my sword, that means of justice stuff, I guess I needed something to keep the Ripper in check when I was knee-deep in bodies. You? But you. All this is a wake-up call to what I really believe. What I really am.
What are you saying?
I'm saying Jack is back. Doctor, turn off my pain inhibitors.
What? This is madness. You
do it!
All right.
Pain. This is why I fight. This is my normal. My nature.
You've lost your mind.
This is the first time I've seen, in any media, a moment where the hero is confronted about whether or not they take pleasure from the killing they do in the name of the greater good, and the hero replies, "Yes, I do." This moment is insane. I don't know if this is character progression or regression. Raiden, a former child soldier who has battled his demons in these games for years, across multiple games, in ways melodramatic.
It was never going to work out for me. It even rained the day I was born.
You got it all wrong. You were the lightning in that rain.
And really melodramatic.
Told you what? That I'm a killer and always have been?
No, no.
Suddenly, after having seemingly found his center at the end of MGS4, indulges into his trauma and wears it almost like a badge. I'm not a therapist. I don't know whether or not this is a healthy response, though I'd wager it's not. But at least he's not repressing this euphoria, embracing what he's really like instead. The reactions of horror around Raiden feel like they match the player's reactions, or at least Mine when I first played this game.
Who's next?
And yet I cannot deny something within myself as well, that for all qualms I might have about this from a detached narrative viewpoint, in the moment, as a player holding the controller, it gets me really excited. To reiterate, how lovely is it that for all the games that make you want to question the violence you commit, this game raises the exact same question and answers directly and with conviction, who cares? It's fun. Which is exactly how the player has been feeling all this time.
That nickname you love so much. Wanna know how I got it? Actually, why don't I give you a demonstration? I think it's time for Jack to let her rip.
The edge is out of control, but it's fun edge, not mean-spirited posy edge, and it gets us hyped for this fight. Monsoon has a lot of tricks up his sleeves. As well as attacking you with his sai, he can use smoke grenades to surprise you, and throw entire vehicles at you using his electromagnetic powers, even combining them into spinning wheels of death that you can parry somehow, and cut through also somehow. All cool, and yet it's his body that's even cooler.
You lost this one!
Hitting your parries is crucial to getting the advantage on him, as it's basically the only way to score hits on the body parts. You can disable his whole body with a precise hit in blade mode after a parry, or by using electromagnetic grenades. Yeah, not so fun when I use nature's force, is it, you dumb Rayman cosplayer?
You're dead! Bullseye! Your means end here.
After all that, don't be confused. Raiden is still the hero. Oh my god, I finished a chapter feeling good about things for once. Desperado HQ. I believe I have an appointment.
Is that correct?
You can now use Ripper mode, basically a devil trigger that ups your damage output massively, and you also automatically cut any cuttable enemy, instantly kill grunts, and chop the limbs off bigger enemies in a flash. Now, literally nothing can stand in your way. We've met the entire enemy roster now, so now all the game can do is structure its levels in cool and interesting ways. We start out waiting for an elevator and a little turret section, but you don't have to use it if you don't want to. And now we take the elevator up into the HQ proper. Wait, you're telling me that after all the variety in that last level, I'm just going into some office building now? Oh, that seems kinda lame.
Keep climbing like that. It will be much easier for you.
Okay, that was pretty cool. But oh, I'm coming up to the Japanese gardens now. Ooh, some rocks and sand. How boring. This is absurd. This is absolutely absurd. I love it. Then there's this section where you're riding a cargo elevator up and they keep trying to stop and destroy the platform you're on. The game even has you fight against the spare bodies of Mistral and Monsoon for a fun rematch. God, you can't underestimate this game even for a second. It's so full of ideas. We're going straight to the main course of this level, and Sundowner is a beefy dish. Naturally, he's here to tell you that he's evil and that he loves being evil.
They're kids, you son of a bitch. And kids are cruel. All people are by nature. They just lose touch with it as they get older. Start thinking they know right and wrong. That's immoral. War crime this, code of conduct that.
The cheese is off the charts here. He's so unbelievably evil, and unlike, say, Dead Space 3, the game leans into it, and this big lug becomes someone you just love to hate. It motivates you, rather than demoralizes you. And then he says this.
Anyway, none of this will matter in 3 hours. Demand for PMCs is about to skyrocket, like the good old days after 9/11.
I don't know how that even fits into the Metal Gear timeline. We go outside to fight him. The whole thing feels like a wrestling match, with helicopters shining spotlights onto our wide open arena. It's time for payback for everything he's done.
Like I said, kids are cool, Jack. And I'm very in touch with my inner child.
Sundowner's gimmick comes from his shields. They're explosive, so you do not want to hit them. Get the opportunity to use blade mode to cut them apart and sever them. Parries don't set off the shields, so don't be afraid of that. Watch out for those helicopters too, and watch out for Sundowner while you're watching out for the helicopters. Alright, where's my lyric drop? Second phase has him go all out on the offensive, using his probably horribly impractical scissor blades, which do vicious amounts of damage. You can, if I recall correctly, just skip this phase by never severing his shields. Useful on Revengeance difficulty. Some attacks on that mode are basically one-hit kills. Ah, don't I get to cut into pieces?
Playtime's over, Jack. Time to die.
Why do people even still make set pieces in their video games? They must know in their hearts of hearts, they can never be as cool as Metal Gear Rising. Now the boss is dead, the team puts their heads together to work out what Sundowner was talking about.
I know. Anything that'll rival 9/11 cannot be good.
Yeah, you think? We work out that it has to do with the US president flying to Pakistan for diplomatic talks, which we saw in a news report earlier in the game. By secretly attacking the president on foreign soil, they'd be creating an excuse for America to go to war in the Middle East again, driving up business for PMCs. The president is already en route, but fortunately, there's a base nearby with an experimental rocket plane which could get me to Pakistan before Air Force One, and we have an in with them besides. So, time to go off and be a hero. Not before a ridiculous scene where Raiden and Doctor are being attacked while en route.
I'll handle this.
Raiden, have a nice flight.
And people say Germans aren't funny.
Sadly, as cool as all this is, Raiden ends up falling down.
I am sorry, my friend. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten.
Looking down on the virgin insane.
No, just kidding. Can you imagine? This chapter is kind of filler. Fun filler, because the game's fun, but we're just going to skip through it. We just need to get a vehicle to get us back to the base, and we're going through a fraction of the Denver level backwards, so there's not much to see besides. Oh, wait a second.
I can't believe this.
Courtney, please don't tell Rose. Actually, why isn't Rosemary in this game? Raiden's kid isn't either, but I guess he's still just a kid. It seems like a weird omission to me. Were Platinum not allowed by Kojima to have them? I could maybe see that. Snake also isn't in this game, and while he's mentioned in Codec, they neither confirm or deny if he's alive, which feels like a deliberate choice to leave a door open. That said, Platinum did score one cameo we'll see soon. Be careful of the melon room. Anyway, Raiden commandeers some appropriate wheels. I don't have anything to say. Do you? Oh, but look who's here on the road waiting for us. The object of my revengeance.
Fancy meeting you here. You knew I'd come. I suppose I should thank you for not killing everyone at the launch site.
Well, not if you say it like that.
For a hired killer, you're not very good at your job.
The war is the big payoff.
Right. Big raises all around once World Marshal gets all those contracts.
I'm not talking about money, Jack. I'm talking ideals.
Excuse me?
Forget it. We've both heard enough speeches about higher causes by now.
We're going to duel to decide what happens next. Two samurai in a battle to the death, with the winner making history. This time, Raiden's ideals are in check.
I don't care who thinks I'm right. And I've got cause enough for killing you.
Huh? Oh, good. Why, that's very good. Yes, I like that.
And it ends here.
Okay. Let's dance!
Jetstream Sam is an awesome fight in a game full of awesome fights. The lyrics of his boss song are already playing to prove this. You already heard the instrumental way back at the start of the game. This is your moment right here. He is fast, deadly, and he will effortlessly cut you down if you have somehow made it this far in the game without getting to grips with parries and blocks. Yes, he's still going to be using his gun sword sheath in this fight. Don't forget about that thing. Those attacks are fairly well telegraphed, but he'll also pause mid-combo to catch you out. He's a skilled sword fighter, and he shows it. He can even parry you. Turn the tables right back at you. Watch out for that. Shockingly though, Sam loses his sword in his second phase and fights us with his bare hands. And he's still tricky. He's not just a master of the blade, but also martial arts. I guess we were told about this a long time ago. By far the best thing about this fight though is the feeling of how you've grown. Before, this guy was an impassable obstacle, a contemporary who so thoroughly outclassed us that it was only by luck that we were saved. and now we're able to fight as equals. Yes, the early fight is scripted, so you're meant to lose it regardless of how good at the game you are, but you spend the entire game after that taking on bigger and bigger threats, building yourself up to this moment right here. The whole game has sculpted your journey, and at its climax, we relish our battle.
Now this is a fight!
Sam is enjoying this fight just as much as you are too. Even though this guy is a villain, and that he is the one who humiliated us at the start of the game, I can't help but feel respect for him. He's never said anything heinously evil like Sundowner, and it's clear he's fighting for a cause rather than money. Even though with this we score our revengeance, I'll miss the smug guy. But it has to be this way. I take it as a sign of ultimate respect for our foe that Raiden doesn't slice him up like deli meat, as we did to all the other bosses. Sam dies, and it's discovered he was human, not a cyborg. The only mechanical thing about him was one of his arms.
Was this outcome necessary? Evidence inconclusive.
We had to become a V12 engine that walks like a man just to get up to his level, and he was almost all human? It almost doesn't seem fair that we killed him, but he was allied with the guys who were harvesting children's brains, so no hard feelings, eh? Sam actually has an interesting backstory covered in his DLC, which I highly recommend playing once you're done with the game. I'm not covering either DLC in this video, that's for you to play. Some people skip them, and I think that's a crime. They're really high quality, and fun too.
This. Whoops.
Sam's blade is ID locked, so we can't use it. I mean, we could still swing it like a normal sword, but we wouldn't get the high frequency upgrades that all Metal Gear Ninja blades have that let us do shit like this. So we move onwards to the airport. Wait, why aren't we taking the bike? I present the next scene without commentary.
Mr. Raiden, sir?
You can't trust this game's tone for a goddamn second. And then we meet our contact.
Where is she?
I'll tell her you've arrived.
Over here! Hi there, stranger.
This is Sunny. She doesn't get introduced straight away, you're just meant to know it's her. Because you did play MGS4, right? Basically, Raiden rescued her between MGS2 and 4 from the Patriots. Do not ask me to explain who the Patriots are. And when we last saw her, she was a small child living with Snake and Otacon, who didn't know how to cook eggs. Now she's 11 years old, and apparently living with a giant nerd paid off, because look at what our little prodigy made.
You built that?
Yep.
It is very anime that this child super genius is designing aircrafts. But Metal Gear has always been quite anime. Time for our flight!
The flight plan is already set. You're good to go.
Please switch off all cell phones and portable gaming devices. And remember, this is a no-smoking flight. Snake! You were smoking again, weren't you? This is a non-smoking...
countdown.
No time for that. Ignition!
This game is stupid. It's smart, but it's also very dumb. It knows it. We land in Pakistan with time to spare. There's a base where World Marshal has the contract, so it stands a good chance that this is where it all goes down. You can talk to Sunny on the codec if you want to catch up with her. Or... Wait, but who are we going to be fighting here? I've killed all the Winds of Destruction from Desperado. There's no one else who can challenge me, right?
Raiden, there is no time to worry about the soldiers. Get to the control tower.
Enjoy that, because that's the last of the regular enemies in this game. Oh my god, Wolf's been injured! Who could have done this to them? Oh god, it's a Metal Gear! Wait, how did that take out Wolf if it was underground? And what is even the practical use of this thing? None of those questions are important. The only thing that matters is who's piloting it.
Well, if it isn't Saucy Jack. Just a little too late, as usual.
The legendary, indomitable Senator Stephen Armstrong has joined the fray, and ever since he first graced the world with his presence, nothing has ever been the same. I hesitate to call him simply a meme, because every word he speaks, every action he makes, even the fight itself, has attached itself to the public sphere to such a degree that it might not be an exaggeration to say that this is one of the most popular and well-known characters in the Metal Gear series at this point. And he appears in the last hour of this game. How can one bureaucrat make such an impact? It's not one thing or one moment, it's everything about him. This whole finale, from start to finish, might just be the most finely crafted conclusion a video game has ever had, elevating this game from pretty cool to unforgettable. The fact we're still talking about this game 10 years later, and this man especially, supports this. We're going in deep on Armstrong because he's worth it, and I want to consider him with the perspective of someone who has never seen him before, someone unaware of his presence and the wider phenomena that has surrounded him ever since. The perspective of a poor little student called Jack in 2013 who was about to have his entire world rocked. So, from the top then.
Impressive little toy you've got there. But your plan ends here. Idiot! You're not ending our plan. You're expanding it. Checked the internet lately?
Raiden, Air Force One is turning back to the States.
What? How'd they know?
Someone posted photos of what's happening on the base.
Hey, remember all those murders I did getting into the base? Well, it turns out that might have been a bad thing. A military base where the president is due to land being attacked is seen as an assassination plot. Understandably. In effect, we just did Armstrong's plan for him ahead of schedule. Look at these accurate and believable internet comments calling for blood. The Reddit armchair generals of the world have had enough.
America's wanted this war for years. The Patriots, they knew war was good for the economy.
Don't worry about the Patriot stuff.
The memes.
Look, basically, Armstrong is trying to use the war to drive the American economy out of a recession. Simple as.
And the military costs? Wasting billions is going to help the economy?
DMCs, arms manufacturers, job creators, Jack.
Hope you like making assault rifles for the rest of your life. By the way, Senator Armstrong's fantastic vocal performance is done by Alistair Duncan, who you may know best as the voice of Mimir from God of War.
If he tells you snow is white, he's lying. You're American. You're number one.
Every word he says in this is done with such showmanship, so much grandstanding. I feel like he's going to try and sell me a truck. I feel like he's already sold 10 trucks today.
So grease the gears with some innocent blood, is that it?
Oh, relax, Jack. It's a war on terror. We're not out to kill civilians. Extremists, lawless gangs, madmen. Of course, that would have to include you. Wouldn't want any eyewitness reports complicating the message.
Yeah, whatever. Let's pop this politician. Doesn't he know that Metal Gear's a Raiden's specialty? Metal Gear Excelsus, not Excelsius, is a giant robot resembling a praying mantis that probably wouldn't have been out of place in something like Metal Wolf Chaos. Its primary attack is with these giant protruding blade arms, attacks so hard and heavy that while you can block them, they will do chip damage to you. On top of that, it will stomp you and fire its laser cannons that kill the gecko units more than they actually hit me. Yeah, that's fine. I have to top myself off anyway. We need to chop off its legs to topple this monster. Again, Raiden's specialty. The song for Excelsus is probably one of my favourites in the soundtrack, but the fight itself is probably my least favourite, not including bosses that aren't really bosses anyway. It's not a bad fight, but it's a little slow maybe? In any other game it'd be perfectly passable, but it stands next to all the other encounters in this game, and it sadly just can't compete. In fact, here and now, I'm thinking of the Ray fight, how great that made me feel. Nothing in this game has made me feel the highs from that first impression, you know. I suppose it feels appropriate for Raiden's personal journey to start by defeating the old Metal Gear model, and then at the end beat up the newest one, bigger and badder than the last. And hey, at least the finale is pretty cool. We lift up and throw the big damn bug out of its hole, before ripping off one of its sword arms and having a giant sword fight with a 100-foot-tall robot where we beat him. We are literally stronger than him. And then we go into blade mode. Big blade mode. Yeah, it's slow, but it's satisfying. Big dumb climax to end on. Mission accomplished. Right?
Slippery little bastard. I don't have time for this.
The universe splits at this moment. In one timeline, Platinum thinks, yeah, Metal Gear Excelsis is a good way to close out the game. In a game where you cut what you will, you cut a Metal Gear with a giant sword. It's the perfect way to end this game. But in another, someone said they had an idea, and thank God we live here. Welcome to the show.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Okay, I wasn't expecting him to bulk up.
Let's go. The hell are you thinking? Played college ball, you know. That's some cushy Ivy League school.
Ow, my faceplate! Ow, my face! What?
Try University of Texas. Could have gone pro if I hadn't joined the Navy. I'm not one of those beltway pansies. I could break the president in two with my bare hands.
What?
Don't fuck with this, Senator.
I did not add that. That's in the game.
What the hell are you? Why don't you stick around and find out?
Hey, remember the last time you beat a Metal Gear and the game knocked you down a peg almost immediately? Yeah, I'm getting deja vu. Raiden hasn't physically struggled against anyone since his new robot body. Just a slight moral clash of conscience in the middle of his journey. Now we're getting our cyborg butt handed to us by a swole senator? Our attacks barely hurt this guy, and he hits like a train. What's going on? If you weren't in too much shock from the almighty whiplash of that last scene, you might have noticed Armstrong's body doing something too. What is that? We're only just getting started, and already there is a fast and direct assault on the player's senses. Just when they think they have a grasp on everything, and that there's nothing to stop them, Armstrong appears. I've talked about whiplash in cutscenes before, but this right here is what makes me think it's deliberate. This whole section has the player in shock, unsure what's going to happen next. That line about sticking around and finding out, that's aimed towards the player too, taunting them, mocking their confusion. Anyway, after you get beaten down enough to satisfy him, the game goes to another cutscene, before I've even had the chance to do any significant amount of damage to him. It'd only take me all week.
What? Nice.
Raiden, my friend Sigmund Freud called. He offers his condolences. Hey, we saved our chin for once. Alright, enough messing around. Now it's time to find out what's actually going on here. Raiden, with his bare super robot hands, delivers a smackdown on Armstrong.
Typical politician.
Both physically
Big promises, but all talk.
and verbally.
Jumpstart the economy. What a load of bullshit! All you care about is lining your own pockets. That and your approval ratings. You've got no principles. Just like all the rest. If America's gone to shit, you're just another maggot crawling in the pile.
The cyborg ninja has a point. What does make Armstrong so special? Nothing about his plan is outstanding. Just standard dirty tricks, really.
All right, the truth then. You're right about one thing. I do need capital and votes. Want to know why? I have a dream.
What?
What? That one day, every person in this nation will control their own destiny. A land of the truly free, damn it. A nation of action, not words, ruled by strength, not committee.
So you're a libertarian?
Changes to suit the individual, not the other way around. Where power and justice are back where they belong. In the hands of the people!
A hyper-libertarian. And just as Raiden beat Armstrong down with all the criticisms of a dirty politician, Armstrong beats Raiden down with a list of all things wrong with America, as seen from an egomaniac who literally wants to make Law of the Wild the only law in the country.
Fuck all these lipstick lawyers and chicken shit bureaucrats! Fuck this 24/7 internet spew of trivia and celebrity bullshit! Fuck American pride! Fuck the media! Fuck all of it! America is diseased, rotten to the core. There's no saving it. We need to pull it out by the roots. Wipe the slate clean. Burn it down! And from the ashes a new America will be born. Evolved but unchanged. The weak will be purged. And the strongest will thrive. Free to live as they see fit. They'll make America great again!
I'd like to remind everyone that this game came out in 2013, several years before anyone may have adopted that slogan.
People will die and kill for what they believe. Not for money, not for oil, not for what they're told is right. Every man will be free to fight his own wars.
Oh hey, this isn't a million miles away from what Big Boss proclaimed with his idea of Outer Heaven. Except he wasn't talking about exterminating anyone not as tough as him. Frankly, I found his ideals a bit more convincing. How did Sam get swayed by you?
So, what do you think?
How the hell did you get elected?
Well, I don't write my own speeches. You should try fighting for what you believe in sometime, Jack.
Dude, I quit my job and raided a US city for what I believe in. Choke on that cigar.
Maybe I was wrong about you.
Am I finally getting through? I'll rid this world of pointless wars, Jack.
I was wrong. You're not greedy. You're batshit insane!
Oh, okay. Why does he do that? Oh, I love it.
Making the mother of all omelets here, Jack. Can't fret over every egg.
Not when you're purging the weak, right? What do you know about the weak? You weren't born poor. You've never been hungry. You don't know what it's like to fight and steal and kill just to survive.
But you did survive! Through sheer force of will, following your own set of rules. With your own two hands, you took back your life.
And now, I'll take yours.
Raiden has a point here. Of course Armstrong wants to make this world where the strong rule, because look at him. He wants to create the castle where he's king. He can talk about it being his true vision of a greater America, but in reality, this man just wants a country of people just like him. Cold, ruthless, willing to do anything to get what they want. How did Armstrong get that strength as well? Oh yes, allying himself with a private military corporation that seeks to create child soldier cyborgs to fight wars all over the world. Stomp on laws and morality to get what you want, no matter the cost. Might makes right. And we've been seeing all through this game where these ideas lead. Powers in unquestionable, unrestrained authority, engaged in an orgy of moral depravity, stomping over everyone else in their path no matter the consequences or the casualties. Why would Armstrong's world be any less corrupt than this one? When the cruel and sadistic rule those weaker than them, all you accomplish is tyranny and inequality. It takes all sorts to make this world, and Raiden here stands on the opposite end of the American dream. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, and I will fight for them with my super robot body that I adopted to help the weak, so no one has to live through what I went through. Armstrong's spin that what Raiden went through was good for him in the end, actually? Sounds like someone needs their worldview shifted. So here we go, fist fight with the big bad on top of a Metal Gear, just like the end of MGS1. Let's do this! And my arm got sore about now.
Why won't you die? Nanomachine, son.
No, you can't say that. Not like that, no. Not now, no. This line is a sucker punch to the face for Metal Gear fans. The way he says it is funny. Son, like his old pop telling you what it was like in the good old days. The fact the explanation for this guy beating a cyborg ninja who can flip 1,000-ton mechs is 2 sentences and that's it, is funny. But it's also the context that this line comes after MGS4, where nanomachines were everywhere, could do anything, as prevalent and powerful as the Force in Star Wars. They were a background detail before now in this game, but now in the foreground? God, it's just whiplash after whiplash with this guy. I remember, after this came out, people kept posting nanomachines, son, as a meme, the first of many from Armstrong. The starting pistol for his never-ending popularity, and it hits you like an uppercut to the face. There is the question of whether or not Armstrong is a parody of everything Metal Gear characters and bosses stand for, whether Platinum Games, who clearly knew the series and respected it greatly, decided to exaggerate things so much for their final act as a cheeky poke at their whole fanbase. Well, it's been 10 years, and I can say with confidence, I still don't know the answer to that question.
Time to end this.
Oh hey Wolf, how's it going?
Done here.
Right.
Oh, they even play his theme.
Well, begin playback.
2 years I've been working towards this. And on the last day, Blondie
Turns out Sam wasn't quite as loyal to the cause as he first appeared. And almost like he was foreseeing exactly this, scheduled his Blade's ID lock to deactivate a few hours after the fight. If Sam had won, no big deal. Guess Blondie wasn't cut out for this. But with Raiden winning, that sword is our secret weapon.
Ha! Even dead, that guy's a pain in my ass. So, you think that little sword can save your master? Well, go ahead then. But make no mistake, Fido. When I'm finished with him, you're next.
I was not designed to fear termination.
Huh?
However, Directive 01 is to ensure all data acquired is preserved and passed along. To expire here would violate that directive. However, Raiden came to my aid. I have learned from him. When Samuel fell, data analysis was inconclusive. But that has changed. I have established new parameters now. Created my own directives.
Man, even Blade Wolf gets a character arc. He spent the whole game wondering about freedom, and now he gets it. Good for him.
You little fuck. Damn much!
I said my sword was a tool of justice.
Oh, is he gonna say it?
Not used in anger. Not used for vengeance.
I think he's gonna say it.
But now I'm not so sure.
Here it comes!
And besides, this isn't my sword. Come on! Okay. Let's dance.
And so, we finally reach one of the greatest final boss fights ever.
I like you, so I'm giving you another.
This fight is spectacular and difficult. When I first played this, it probably took me over an hour of attempts playing it on hard. Now I know the dance. I know the moves. I know I just need to get to the part where healing nanopaste comes down and then I should be good. But I still remember that night when Senator Armstrong first began beating me down. Of course the vocals are already playing. This is the ultimate climax. Everything that's led up to this moment right here is nothing short of some of the most masterful manipulation of the player's emotions that has possibly ever been executed in games. Senator Armstrong went from literally who to literally who I want to beat more than anything else in the world. This shouldn't work as well as it does, introducing the final boss after so little screen time, but they managed to make every scene with Armstrong so loud and in your face, and took so much time to establish not just what a personal threat he is, but what a threat to the world he is. This is hype. This is the hype. He knocks you down again and again until you make your final stand, standing on the razor's edge of fate with the danger of a world of absolute chaos and war perpetrated by a deluded egomaniac if we lose. It is an unbelievable feeling in the moment, and I did not falter in my resolve for a second 10 years ago. And still now, nothing gets me as excited as this battle. and the fight itself is fantastic. It's the ultimate final exam of all the skills you've gained across the entire game.
You know what? Fuck this war. I just want...
Blocking, parrying, using blade mode accurately. He has such a wide array of moves as well. He can even disarm you, and it's actually a good chance to score some hits on him in some sudden think fast quicktime events. At the end, we manage, with the help of Sam's blade, to damage his body enough and to pierce him with a deadly sneaky stab before we exhaust him, proving that we are the strongest. Our will is the one that will shape the future ahead, and we take our time for one last Zandatsu.
Well done, Jack.
Armstrong isn't even mad to fail and die, and pulls out the rare case of the worst trope in storytelling, the "we're not so different" speech from the villain to the hero, actually working in a narrative? For a start, he's already dead, so it's not being used by the villain as a shield to be spared. But also, Armstrong is kind of right. His talk of might makes right does apply to everything Raiden's been doing. Using his power to fulfill his ideals in the face of adversity, of the law. Armstrong calls him a successor to his legacy, but I see this as his own short-sighted beliefs once again. Raiden doesn't need to reply. His words are right here. You know, this reminds me of a line from MGS4.
Your body may be a machine, but your heart is human.
And here is Armstrong. Body of a man, but his heart is black and cold, like a machine. Typical politician. He may say we're kindred spirits, but at the end of the day, it's not about the size of your sword. It's how you use it. Thanks to our victory, we managed to set the story straight. America and Pakistan begin a healthy diplomatic relationship. Maverick has reformed into a peaceful organization where they've taken on the children's brains and will help them get used to cyborg life, educate them, teach them trades to help them move on with their lives. George is their first recruit, taking on work alongside Sunny and her spaceships, and he's only too happy to be there.
And you're hot for days.
Huh? Where did that come from?
Also, Sunny has Blade Wolf now. Don't worry about it.
For me, see that ninja? Me never think I've been this kind of life.
Yeah.
Huh?
He rescued me too, you know. Saved my life. I owe him everything. To some people, he'll always be Jack the Ripper. But that's not the Raiden I know. The Raiden I know is a hero.
But what happened to Raiden?
PMCs are in demand once again.
Yeah. Fighting for reasons they don't understand. Causes they don't believe in.
Beg pardon?
No. Nothing.
So, your mind is made? You will not come back.
Sorry, Boris.
I understand. But then, what will you do?
I've got my own war to fight.
And that was Metal Gear Rising. That last cutscene was kind of cool. Our boy is roaming the land with an imprint of Armstrong's ideals with him, but carving his own path. And those cyborgs seem to bear a striking similarity to Jetstream's Sam, don't they? The ending seems to tease we might see more of Raiden in the future, but alas, this is the last time we see Raiden. Ever. Not counting MGS5. 10 years on and no sequel was made, and it seems unlikely one ever will. Not just because Konami has burned the fields and salted the earth where Metal Gear fruits did once grow so beautifully, but also Platinum Games is a different company to the one that made Metal Gear Rising. They want to work on their own properties now. Metal Gear Rising was one of several tie-in games that they made. Revengeance kicked it all off before they ended up making a bunch of cartoon tie-in games, ranging from kinda fun to best not talked about. The end of this era, before they wanted to build themselves up on their own IP, came from the development of Nier Automata, with Square Enix and director Yoko Taro. A very successful game, but that game is probably the second reason Platinum wouldn't make Metal Gear Rising again, as their games after Nier all have the air of Nier about them, of that strange uneasy melancholy that fits with that franchise and with the nuanced and mad writing of Yoko Taro, yet remains a poor match for their independent titles. This isn't universally true, but man, when even Bayonetta 3 feels like a bummer for much of its runtime, I can't help but feel this company has lost its way somewhere. I look at Metal Gear Rising and I see people who were inspired and worked their hardest to deliver the best game they could on apparently a very tight deadline. A game that has an identity so defined, so loud and proud, and never once second guesses what it's doing. It's confident and hits all the marks it wants to. And while I'm sad that since then we haven't had any game that manages to hit the same notes, I am at least glad I got to experience this. They say Platinum